check, Mike. Apple, orange, banana, Mike, check, Mike.
Word.
I go up to here. The stream is live.
Word.
Mike, check. Check.
1, 2, 3. The stream is
Mike,
live. All right, I heard us all live on that, so I have no problem with that. We're recording. Okay, we're here with Rob and Tony, and we're gonna do some heavy, hard-hitting news journalism today. Unless you've been under a rock, you probably know about that the local coordinators and regional coordinators have been let go of their duties, and it is up to the stores now to handle organized play for Dungeons and Dragons. Which brings me to Rob and Tony. Specifically for starting this conversation, I informed you guys before we started recording, when we did Threat Detected, the Dawn of Defiance campaign, the first 3 chapters were part of the current at the time version of organized play, the RPGA, and they kind of canceled that out 3 modules in and said Star Wars is not in. But if we had been playing like that, we would have only been allowed to use certain books. Rama would definitely not have existed by any stretch of the imagination. Kellen would not have been allowed to play his character as dark as he played his character. You would not have gotten to do any of the side quests that I came up with and that Tony came up with. None of that would have happened. But if you had gone to another place to play Star Wars Dawn of Defiance, you could bring your character and there would be no problem with how your character was, to be an equal experience of play across the board, but it would have completely changed what our game became. So, how do you guys feel about these changes and this idea of organized play in the role-playing games?
Well, I'm going to open up by reading out of my 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. In the introduction on page 4, under ringing noises, under more ringing noises.
Okay.
Part 1, Master Worlds, introduction, right first thing in the Dungeon Master's Guide, 5th edition. Every DM is the creator of his or her own campaign world. Whether you invent a world, adapt a world from a favorite movie or novel, or use a published setting for the Dungeons & Dragons game, you make that world your own over the course of a campaign. The world where you set your campaign is one of countless worlds that make up the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse, a vast array of planes and worlds where adventures happen. Even if you're using an established world such as the Forgotten Realms, your campaign takes place in a sort of mirror universe of the official setting where Forgotten Realms novels, game products, and digital games are assumed to take place. The world is yours to change as you see fit, and yours to modify as you explore the consequences of your players' actions. So that's black and white, right in the front of my 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. So I guess that's all that really needs to be said. Obviously, we're going to say a little more than that. But I don't know why you print that in your DM's guide and then you do the exact opposite because you want everyone to have the same cookie-cutter experience like it's a video game, even though role-playing is not a video game, is kind of my opinion, I guess, to open up with.
Elaborate on that point. How are you saying it's they're trying to make it like a video game?
So if you play Mass Effect or Call of Duty or whatever, you can make certain choices in those games, but they are within a very constrained set of limits. There's only so many things that the gaming engine and the choices that have been made for you let you do. Even something like Skyrim or Fallout or even an MMO, which gives you vast choices, gives you a very limited set of things that you can do. A role-playing game is by its nature seemingly limitless. You can do pretty much anything that you could conceive of. You may not succeed at it. And I don't know. I feel like video games are very popular. I love video games, but they're very popular. When you play a game, you're gonna have vaguely the same experience as someone else who plays it. You may take different things away from it, but you're gonna have vaguely the same experience. And I think they want that out of the nightly D&D encounters sessions. But I don't know if that's feasible or correct for a role-playing game, especially a game with its roots in, hey, let's explore this room with my 10-foot pole, and let's talk about what I'm doing, and like, wow, I don't know. It feels like they're trying to cram what RPGs are or should be into that kind of modern video game motif. Maybe that's wrong, but that's what it is.
So one aspect that I could see this possibly being under is the brand, right? They want to present something that's uniform in order to, preserve their brand name. So when someone goes, D&D, it means A, B, and C. It means exactly these things. And I think that by attempting to restrict things, they're trying to put that stamp on, so you can just be like, well, this is exactly what it is. Look how beautiful and perfect it is, because it's all right there on the established guidelines that you have to follow. Which, as Rob kind of alluded to, I don't know is correct. I mean, published adventures as it stands currently are that, right, where they have you on
No, they're not.
well, I mean, I'm not saying, but they're trying to present like a theme and stuff, and like, here's your thing, A to Z, and here are some guidelines for what you can do.
So I just finished reading Out of the Abyss. I bought that, right?
Yes.
And I say no, they're not, because I just read that whole thing, and that entire, whether it's just Green Ronin, they're the ones who wrote that particular adventure. Maybe it's just them. I don't know.
It's a great example of how the D&D adventures are being presented now. It's a wonderful example.
It's not that. It's literally that entire book is, hey, here's like the drow and stuff. Maybe they do this. Maybe they do that. Maybe they do something else. Hey, if they do this, here's some rules for it. Well, maybe you want them to meet up with the party here. Maybe you don't. But if you do, this is what happens. Oh, here's the bad guy. He wants you to do this. Maybe your party doesn't want to do that. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you present that. Like, the whole book is quite literally like, hey, here's like 10, 11 different ways that you could go through this adventure. And here's like maybe some hints on some other things that your players may do differently. So I don't even think that their published adventures are like this. Like,
and also with Into the Abyss, if you remember, there's like, you can go to this town from the first town, or you can go to the second town, or you can go to the third town, or you can go in any order from all these towns before you get out of the abyss.
Yep, or you could do it linearly. They say, you can do it right in order if you want. If you want to have a little bit more focus for like levels and stuff, they suggest that as well. So I don't know.
Or they could skip 2 of the cities and just go actually find the right place where the guys will actually tell you how to get out of there.
Yeah, I guess it's just jarring to have read that so recently and then have this where it's like, you have to A, B, Z, A, B, C, D to Z.
So I'm not anywhere near as up to date on adventures as being the more of the player than the GM that you guys are. But I've definitely read some older stuff. In particular, I've read some of the Dawn of Defiance campaign, and there is wiggle room and stuff. I think, Garrett, you'll back me up on this, where it's just like, oh, you meet Darga, and he wants this. Maybe he goes about it this way, but it's a lot of adventures in previous years, whether or not that's changed now, have a lot of that. Just like, well, here's a couple things. But even in like Dawn of Defiance, they're like, here's a great place for a break to have some of your own adventures and everything, side quests and side stories. And it is concerning that even those more rigid ones are seemingly going even more railroading.
And it's not, well, it's not even railroading. The way the D&D adventures are written now, in that it would be telling you, basically tell you the layout of Dargus Palace, and in what room you'll find different characters, and have pages about what their motives are, and make it very, as Rob said, maybe they'll approach you to do this, maybe they'll approach you to do that, maybe your players will want to go over here and explore this, and then and then 3 days into it, you hear these voices calling to you from below. It would be structured a little bit more like that.
So I guess my first comment is, what's to stop you from doing it the way you want to anyways? I mean, role playing it's getting together with your friends and in the store and your living room or whatever, and hanging out and making this adventure. And I mean, people, since role playing has been invented and have had published adventures, go, well, I'm going to change this. So I mean, I think it's almost silly.
I've had experience when I did the first one, when I did Horde of the Dragon Queen, where it actually says play out day by day this 200-day journey up the Sword Coast, and come up with things to happen in there. And as I was doing that, I was basically everybody was having such a good time that they were telling the coordinators about it, and the coordinators were like, "I wish we didn't know it was Garrett, because we know Garrett does quality, but we have to stop him from doing this and get him to just skip all what it says in the book about playing out all this and get to the next combat or encounter in the book."
Where was this at? A store?
This was played at Collector's Inn.
Okay, so you, so it makes me feel like what Games Workshop used to be more like in the late 90s, early 2000s, where Warhammer 40k is this and that, and get the hell out of the store with anything, very trying to control exactly how you play Warhammer 40k, GW smashing their fists down and sending the Inquisitors out and the Nazis after you. That's kind of what I feel like hearing all of this from Wizards of the Coast. It feels very much like, I mean, if anyone has been involved in Warhammer of any time, they probably know some of what GW has been like in the past. I think a little less so nowadays, but it makes you think of that quite heavily.
And again, I don't know whether it was the coordinators responding on that, or whether they had the authority to respond on that. But what I was told was everybody needs to have the same experience, and we need to play it just by the book.
So, go ahead, Tony.
Gosh, I don't know. I think we're kind of in the same. I have not played a lot of organized or RPGA type stuff, so I'm a little foreign to this.
I guess I have that third person view into it, where I watch a lot of YouTube channels, and I kind of keep up on some of the internet a little bit with things out there. Our friend Chris, he has some friends that do organized play, and he's done it in the past too, so I hear a little bit through them. And that's the fun of a D&D adventure, whether it's a big one you take home or that is yes, it's all sort of the same thing, but how did your group do it? That's kind of the fun, you're like, oh man, we went into the Tomb of Elemental Evil and the room with all those, yeah, we did that too, that was great. Our DM added this monster here. Oh, that's crazy. We didn't have that. We had this guy. Oh, wow, wow, how different our experiences were, but the same, because we're playing the same adventure, just sort of different because of how our GM, that's the fun of a D&D game. You can connect to another person because you've basically gone through the same thing with them, but then they can be like, we did this and it was awesome. And you go, that is awesome. We did this and it was awesome. And they go, wow, that was awesome. And then, those ideas spread out, they get used in different groups, and enjoyment is had by all. Is my kind of opinion on
So
the adventure.
what it kind of strikes me as and first of all, like how Rob read out of the front of the 5th edition book, any role-playing book I've ever read has just been like, hey, this is, do what you want to do. So first off, just take that into your head during this whole conversation, anyone who's listening. But it strikes me kind of going back to video games and also keeping it with role-playing as like a demo, right? Or kind of like a con game, right? When you run a con game, you're like, well, I'm going to try and present a game, a sample of this game to people. And I agree with you, Rob. Like, the fun of it is like, when you did your thing game all those times, everything is different and it's the same, but different. And you're trying to, be like, well, here's the thing and here's all that stuff. But that fun is like, well, how do we do it this time? That's why I played it in, 6 different times that you ran it, is just to be like, well, what can I do this time? What role can I be this time? And, it's, I think, trying to do that same sort of thing, but in that much more restrictive sense where they're like, well, we want to present this. And to do that, everyone must do this, which is losing, I think, some of the charm and elegance that comes along with the role playing. I mean, I've spoken with Rob about this a lot. I don't like video game role playing games because I'm just like, I can't do what I want to do. If I want to go and, save someone or, skip ahead or not even follow the thing, I'm just like, I'm in a role playing game. I can be like, Rob, I'm going to go over here. And he's going to be like, okay, I wasn't ready for that, but give me a second and let me think about, okay, let's do this, and in a video game, I can't. And that's why, a huge reason why I like to play, role playing games instead. And if it was like, well, Rob, I want to do this. And he's like, I'm sorry, Tony, you must make the right choices. It would be boring as hell. I don't want to do that. If I want to do that, I can sit in front of my TV and play a video game. So it's deeply concerning. I can sort of see possible explanations, but like the methods are.
I mean, I understand why they're doing it, and you already said it. I mean, they have a brand. They want to, this is Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, and this is the story, and this is how it happens, and this is what happens. And when you talk to Chuck from Hawaii, who played, it, 6 hours from now, he's gonna have the same experience as you, and those warm feelings are the same between one another, and you can talk about it. And Dungeons and Dragons, you can talk to anyone in the world, and they know exactly. That's the idea behind it,
right?
But personally, I think all it's going to do is you're going to get a certain type of person that's going to show up to encounters or to the nights that like has that maybe more video game mindset, or maybe just like less role playing, more I want to hack shit apart with my sword, which is cool. I mean, I like that too every once in a while. But it's gonna draw those sorts of people in. And then everyone else is going to not go anymore. They're going to find basements to play in with their friends. They're going to find more private groups to play in. And they may still play Dungeons and Dragons, but they're not going to come to your Wednesday night encounters or whatever it is because they give a shit. They don't want to. Games Workshop, like, oh man, I could go down to Games Workshop, but they're just going to like try to sell me shit and like make me do this and do that. And I just don't go anymore because I hate them and I don't want to support them because they're awful. Like, it's going to be that same sort of a thing. And then now with making the store owners try to police everything, it's just going to make bad blood between players and store owners. Or more likely, the store owners are just going to say that they're doing it and not give a shit and not do anything at all.
Right. So I'm going to say one more point before we kind of jump onto that, because I think that is possibly even more concerning, is the lack of support. But part of the charm and the draw of doing things where you can do whatever, you have your adventures and everything, is you bring those people in and then they take that game and they go, oh, I had such a good time, and they show it to other people, and then those people come in and play and bring other people in. And like Rob said, driving away that core base of people who are just like, I want to role play and it's crazy and everything's going to be different, is not going to bring those new people in, because those people are going to go, well, don't go to that, it's boring. And they're gonna be in their basements and at their friends' houses and whatever, and it's not going to expand, and you're just gonna get stagnant pools of role play, D&D encounters nights and everything. But jumping on to what Rob said, the stores having to police everything, the lack of support or support being withdrawn, I think is almost greater sin than kind of restricting it, because at least if they're like, well, here's a bunch of stuff and everything, here's how we want to support it, and follow us, we're going to lead you on stuff, now they're just like, well, here's our rules and you deal with it, is just a step back of this is a game of community, as we've discussed before too, and to have the people who put out these adventures to say, hey, come join our community, be like, well, we don't care about it, is pretty damning, I think.
How are they saying they don't care about it?
Well, putting the onus on the store owners and the coordinators to kind of run everything and taking their hands out of it, like Rob said, I think is going to create friction in those, in your friendly local gaming store that shouldn't be there at all to begin with. Not having that support, forcing your coordinators to buy everything that they need to not have out those enhancements to your game, I think is gonna put, again, more pressure on people and drive people away a little bit more.
And store owners have better shit to do. They aren't gonna care. Like, yes, we made sure that it ran the right way. Yes, Mr. Wizards of the Coast representative, I sure did. I don't give a shit, guys. Do whatever the hell you want. That's what's gonna happen. Let's not kid ourselves. If the store owner's in charge of it, they're not gonna get what they want anyway. So it might even just be a moot conversation at that point.
Yeah, I guess
this way, but we're not gonna check in on you.
I guess that's the other thing too, is who the Wizard of the Coast police gonna come after you and tell you not to play this game the right way?
A lot of that stuff is you gotta have this signage here to have magic cards, or you have to have this stuff posted here. You gotta sell this stuff with this much shelf space. There's certain shit that you have to do to kind of get that support to be able to run those things from Wizards of the Coast, or Games Workshop does that too, and there's other ones. So I'm sure it's that kind of stuff where they're like, well, you have to do this if you want, DCI Wizard support or whatever it is. And it's just a lot of bureaucracy and just corporate bullshit.
But now we don't have a lot of the bureaucracy. They've gotten rid of the local coordinators. They've gotten rid of the regional coordinators. And what we're left with is the people that were appointed by the local coordinators to basically be the store representative, to collect the money, and to handle the sign-in sheet and make sure that new players have a table to go to. That's what they signed up for. Now those people are being told, you are in charge of the whole dang thing, in coordination with the store owner.
I don't know. I feel like,
and we don't even know if the store representatives have a position anymore. They weren't even really discussed with. All the things that I've read is talked about the store owners, not a volunteer representative, because they've officially gotten rid of the volunteer representatives on all the other levels.
Yeah, I don't see the store owner really caring any more than they have to about it. They have a store that they're running and a lot of more important things probably to deal with. So I don't know. It's a little foolish. It's it's a big corporation that maybe doesn't quite know what's actually going on in the street. It was if that's right or not, it'd be harsh. But
the having to collect and pay thing is shitty, to say the least. When you can just be like, hey, come down to the shop, it'll be cool, we'll hang out, we'll play D&D and everything, that's fun. It's like, oh, hey, come on down, it's gonna cost you $15 to play.
They pass the sheet around in the envelope and they say it's not mandatory, but that's how we pay to get all the adventures and pay for the materials for the DMs to give you stories and stuff.
The tithe of D&D.
The tithe. So basically, to like run the encounters, they have to pay. They personally have to pay the money to like print out all the stuff.
They have to buy the books and buy the from Drive Through RPG the modules for the
Did
one
it used
shots.
did it used to be free?
The weekends things were free. The Wednesday night books were just like Into the Abyss. They had to buy copies of the book for all the DMs.
So like, if you want your hobby to grow or your product to grow like that, I don't know why you would put a ticket admission price on it. Companies give away free things to stores constantly to promote their products. And I can only imagine the weekend kind of gaming is only doing good for Dungeons and Dragons. I can't imagine why you would make it harder to do. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure that's a lot of stores. I'm sure that is a lot of overhead for them. But I mean, let's be honest, Wizards of the Coast can probably, tighten their belt just like one notch and we'll be okay, I think. I don't know. It just seems a little anathema to what they're.
I mean, it just immediately puts up a barrier to playing your game or expressing that product out there. I remember, to kind of touch back on your Games Workshop comments, when I was younger and attempting to get into Warhammer stuff, there was a store in the Galleria Mall here, and I would go in and they were like, oh, Sunday, you can play and learn, and I was 12 years old, and the rules can be complicated, and I'd play a game, and there's 6 people around the table, so you don't necessarily get to 100% learn everything, and like after 2 or 3 times that I came to, like, you can't come anymore. You can't, play you have to buy things and then bring your own stuff to play. And I was like, well, your models are expensive and I'm 12. I think this is really cool and maybe I can, do a little bit, but I still don't know what I'm doing. And I, don't have, anyone else who wants to play or anything, and I'm 12. So can I maybe, hang out in your store and check things out, and as I'll grow more in my knowledge of it, I'll be able to build maybe slowly, but and it hurt my interest in the game. I was just like, well, now I don't have anyone to play with and stuff, and I have this rule book that I don't understand, and I guess it's gonna sit in the basement for 15 years
Until Rob shows up.
Yeah. And that is the atmosphere that nobody wants. I mean, I will say that store is no longer open. It hasn't been open for a very long time. And that is the thing that you just don't want. If you have to be like, well, you can't come. The first taste of D&D is free, but after that, you got to pay.
And I want to again say that it's voluntary. I've paid maybe $2 over the last years because I'm on a strapped income, but it's that feeling of, oh, I'm the charity case that as everybody else is paying their way.
Right, and that's weird too. Like, it's like church almost, right? Like, put what you can in the basket, and the lady next to you drops a 20, and you're like, "Here's my pocket change," I guess. Like, making you feel like you're not being good enough for God. You're not pleasing the Wizards of the Coast well enough. I don't know. It's, I guess I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with that as a player. So perhaps my opinion's not the most relevant. I'm sure there are many people who that's how they do their main role playing, and I feel poorly for them, I guess, if it's as bad as it kind of feels. It feels like they're socking you in the jaw a little bit. Like, maybe not hard, but a little bit is kind of how it feels to me.
And in terms of just like the paying thing, and even if it's maybe not expensive or whatever, the community depends on volunteers, those people who will run the game, and as everyone will tell you, it can be tough to find a good GM who will do that stuff, and maybe people were only putting in a couple bucks and everything, but now the volunteer GM who's trying to run it and be nice and have that fun for everybody and lead them in that adventure is like, well, now I have to shell out for this stuff, and that just makes it harder on your people who are literally standing in front of a group of people selling your game for you. Even if it's not a huge price point, I mean, it's shitty. Like Rob said, it feels like just a bit of a low blow. They're just like, oh well, whatevs. I mean, I can only imagine that if in like our World of Darkness campaign, if things were so limited, and if Rob was like, well,
we wouldn't have our campaign.
Yeah. Or if like Rob was like, well, I don't know if I can afford the mage book for next campaign. Maybe you guys, I'm gonna pass the envelope around, put what you need in.
Right.
And then it's like, well, I really, maybe it's the opposite where it's like I'm having a really good time, and now like I have to try and find however much money to support the guy and everything. It's just it's weird. It's I don't know, if it just feels gross.
So I guess at the end of the day, it's their organized play, it's their game, it's their thing that they want to do in the shops, and they can do what they want. It's their product. It's Wizards of the Coast. They can do absolutely whatever they want with it, but all a player needs to do is walk into a store, buy those 3 books, maybe an adventure, maybe not. Walk out and never look back. You don't have to do a damn thing that they say or want you to do in your own house. So I mean, you can. I do feel bad for the people that don't have another choice, but for kind of everyone else, go back to your own group and do whatever the hell you want, because it doesn't matter what they want D&D to be. It's your Dungeons and Dragons game.
Or get a group started. I mean, we've talked about this many times before about how Threat Detected got started. It was a message on a board. It was a meetup and someone saying, "Can I come in and play?" and saying, "Hell yeah, sure."
Maybe it's your group that you meet with every weekend, to play D&D with. Maybe you're okay with these changes and it's not that big of a deal, and that's fine. And if it is, maybe you talk with some of the people there that you like, that you kind of know, that you think would mesh well with you, and you say, "Hey, let's come over to my house on next Saturday, and we'll play and not worry about this anymore." Like maybe that's the happy fix to it.
Yeah. Or ask the guy at your local gaming store, "Hey, can I put up a flyer, say looking for group," or anything like that. I'm sure they'll be
the internet is
happy to do it.
chock full of places, and it's funny too, because I love 5th edition D&D. I've not really played a lot of it yet, but I think it's my favorite edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Just the writing is so much like, it's your game and be free, and
it
like
seems so
about everything,
doesn't it?
What?
It seems just so counter to what they're saying.
It's completely different to everything that I've read in pretty much every product book that I've bought from them, which are fantastic and I love, but it almost seems like it's a different company, or probably what's more likely, it's different from the fine gentleman who wrote the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The business department versus the creative department.
Exactly.
Correct.
So, in the meantime, I'm doing the Code of Chaos for Chaosium, which is another organized play group. And basically what I have to do is I run a game from these 6 chapters of free, and you can help write other stuff to be put into the vault that will qualify as free material that you can download and run at your friendly local gaming store or wherever you want to play. And I basically put up telling how many players I had, when I ran it, where I ran it, phone number of the place that I ran it, and tell cool stuff that happened during the game. And that's all they care about.
That's probably all anyone should probably care.
That just feels like normal gaming, with me checking in with them, sharing with the company my stories. That's really...
Yeah, I mean that when you expose people to a game, and they have fun, they're gonna go out and buy those books, and then maybe they go, oh, I want to run this adventure for my friends. They'll buy that adventure. If they know that the adventure is the same every time, maybe that is less good. Maybe they there's like, oh, you did this, we did the same thing, and then the conversation's over. Where you can do anything you want, that just spurs more conversation and more fun.
Especially new players who that stuff's more geared towards.
Yes.
Who don't know better, who maybe don't know any better. Oh, well, it's got to be like this every single time. Like there's no, you have to run it exactly. They don't know any better. They learn that, and then that's how they're gonna GM or go into role playing for the rest of their lives. I don't know if that's.
Is that what we want to put out there? That reminds me of when we were at Gen Con at the worst game ever, and there were those two kids, and they're just like, "This is our first game ever. It's fantastic," and it was just terrible.
Just the worst game.
The worst game, and like railroady as hell, and like just terrible. And we were like, these children are gonna go forth and be like, Pathfinder is just like this. And we're like, that sucks.
No magic, no creed. Oh, it's just terrible.
Yeah, that's not
magic in the sense of like creative magic or that feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that's the game that everyone's playing during organized play, then God help us.
Next week we're going to have on the show John O'Brien, who ran for the longest time the Pathfinder Society for Buffalo, New York, and he recently stepped down, and he's going to tell his story about that from that side of things. So that'll be something fun for you guys to listen to and hear why he got out of it.
I still need to write a sternly worded letter to Pathfinder about Rise of the Rune Lords and the levels of bullshit that campaign is. That's a story for another time.
So, what is your... Now that we've had all this badness, what is the best scenario for you for people getting together to game? What is the ideal... If you could design a scenario for people getting together to game, what is your dream scenario?
For like like organized play, you mean?
Any play.
Oh man, the basement.
So I think, as we've talked about before, getting that group of like-minded individuals who want to play the type of game that you do or that you want to tell, getting together with those people and then just gaming wherever, whenever you can. That's the best thing. As long as you're with that group, along with people who want to play, if you want to play the game where it's like a video game, I'm just sitting around the table with my friends, that's fine. Play that game. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Yep. I'll go for it. But if you don't, then don't play that game. Play with your friends who are just like, let's, I got the adventure. Let's do it. Whatever. Let's, we'll do it live. And just have fun with it. As we've said so many times before, gaming is about having fun. If you're not having fun, then do it differently. Make it your own.
Yep. Just the basement, the attic, the garage, your kitchen table, with people that you really like being around, who really like playing the game, and play whatever you want to play. Play the game that you want to play. As a GM or DM, run the game that you want to play in, and you'll probably have a pretty darn good time.
Indeed.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rob and Tony, for helping us put perspective on these events, the announcements in D&D organized play, and talking about organized play versus getting to hang out in the basement. And you guys have a wonderful evening.
You too, Mr. Garrett.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Gutters, eh?